Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello and welcome to NPTEL's course on communication skills. We are now on a very interesting module. This is completely on interview skills. As I have been telling you, this is a very major component of communication skills, as well as it's going to be practically very useful. You can apply all the skills that we have been talking about in this module for your practical success in interviews also. So far I have discussed certain items, aspects of interview in the past 3 lectures on this. This is module number 8, lecture number 4 on interview skills. Overall I have been telling you that the module will be covering, or almost it covered in the past lectures, certain things about the misconceptions about an interview, and then what is an interview, what is the major purpose, why one should go and attend interview, and then how one should actually prepare for an interview. Now this is a major component of interview, how one should prepare. Now we just stopped somewhere in the middle in the previous lecture when I was talking about preparing for the questions. So I started with telling you that there are certain aspects of preparation in which first you can start with knowing yourself and then knowing the company. And in terms of knowing the company, there are certain questions that you may be asking, and knowing about yourself, you may also ask certain questions. Now let's look at those questions in detail, and then and there I will also give you some acceptable answers, but I would like you to be as free as possible and then think of creatively answers which will be relevant to your personality and your career profile. Okay. And then I will also talk about some keys to success in interviews, and overall I will tell how you should actually attend an interview inside the interview hall, and then how one should close an interview, what should be the closing concluding thoughts, followed by post interview functions, what should one do once the interview is over. So this is the overall framework of this module. Now coming back to the questions and then identifying them in terms of typical questions. The first group of questions will be always related to the job as such. So questions like, what interests you about this job? As I have been telling you before, never say that the monetary aspect is the only thing that is interesting. Highlight on the challenges that the job is going to give you. Highlight on the information potential that the job has got, the experience gain that you will have once you get the job. And then above all, by linking with that organization, you know that your goal and the organization's goal can be merged, and then you can emerge as a better person once you are through this interview. How do you see your career developing 5 years now? Now once again you have to say that your career will develop as an integral part of this organization. Using this, you should be able to highlight that you will develop better in 5 years. What other jobs have you applied for? Now again a tricky question. You must have applied for certain other jobs, you must be expecting some interview call letters, and you must have also got an interview call already. Now you have to be very discreet whether to tell them that yes, you got something. Now even if you say that just to be on the honest side, then again you have to make it very clear whether you want to go for that job given a chance that these people are willing to give you this chance. So you should be clear about it. So you cannot say that okay, if you give a job, I will join. What about that other company? If they also offer you something, you cannot say that I will just leave this and then go and join. It shows your disloyalty, and then your indecisiveness also at the beginning itself. Be sure of what you want, because you may get it, but once you get it, then you should be sure of continuing with what you have got, sticking to it at least for some time. So be sure about these questions related to job and be ready with the appropriate answers. And then questions centering on you. This again I discussed in detail in the previous lecture. Why did you select your course? Tell me about it. Describe any projects you have done. I just emphasize that as far as possible, try to highlight how the course, how the projects that you have done are actually related to the job that you are seeking for, and that it's again correlated to your ambition, career ambition, and your goals that you will achieve after 5 or 10 years. Okay. What are your strengths and weaknesses, key achievements? Again, I spent so much time on describing about strengths and weaknesses. I said, think of something that is intrinsic in you. Certain things which are strengths could also be weakness. Example, being a perfectionist is a strength, but being a perfectionist and postponing things because you want the thing to happen in a perfectionist manner is again becoming a limitation. So, identify these things, and more than that, they are interested in what amendments, what steps are you taking to overcome these limitations. If you have a postponement problem, that's absolutely no problem in a sense, as long as you are able to do something, make some amendments to rectify that situation. If you say that I am a late riser, that is also not a problem, but if you can tell them, given a professional situation, I can get up at any time, that is no issue. So, that is what they are looking for. And then what can you bring to this post? That is, already the post has some designated strength on its own, but when you are there, what value will you add to it? So, this again you have to think about your personality traits, your career ambition, and the existing job values, and see how far you can add to it. What have you done to prepare for this interview? Things like you had a thorough study of the company's profile, things like you know the persons who are going to interview, you have studied their CV, things like the project line that is there, you have done some homework, and then you have even developed a kind of software, and so on, can actually create a very good impression. There could be what if questions. What ifs? If you are the director, what would be your priorities? They can even ask, if you are the CEO of this company, what would you do? Suppose tomorrow, or you are given the power as the chief manager, and then you have to change one thing in the organization, what would you do? Or which product line would you change? So, be prepared to answer this what if. Okay. So, here again they are checking your imagination, creativity, and then your ability to foresee things in a given hypothetical situation. So, get ready for that. And then general knowledge. Are you aware of what is happening? Suppose you are attending as a student of IIT, and then you are just going and joining somewhere, or you are even trying for some higher studies in IIT. A question like this: what's your opinion of the government's policy on increasing fees at IITs? So, there's already committees, and they've been proposing that the fees at IITs should be increased fourfold. So, suppose it is 15,000 for the semester, the suggestion is that it should go up to 60,000. Now, what do you think of this? So, instead of just jumping into conclusion, if you are the student, it will be easy for you to say no, it should not be increased. But do you have a balanced view why the committee is recommending that it should be increased, and what are the reasons? Is there any problem in maintaining it so low? Is there problem with subsidizing rates and all that? What's happening? Why is this issue coming up now? So, have answers for these things, and this will show that you are up to date. You are just reading what's happening, and then you are analyzing this also. Now, these are the typical questions, and then there could be other questions based on competency. So, what the company actually does in that term is, it identifies key skills required for job. So, it designs questions to elicit evidence of skills, just to check your competency, proficiency. There can be questions like in, for instance, computer related interviews. So, they can even put a small problem on a paper, and then they can ask you to just solve the problem. They can give you a piece of paper and then ask you to solve it, or write a kind of program in the given time. So, just checking your competency. what is the point in asking you who invented the computer, when was this happened, what is the full form of ASCII and all that. Instead of asking you to do this, which anybody can mug it up and produce, they just want to check your competency. If you say that you have done this, just show it before us. We are giving you half an hour time, 1 hour time, and they can do this parallelly also. You are asked to sit in one corner and somebody is given with another program and he is also sitting in another corner, and it now 3-4 people are there in the room, and once somebody says I have done it, and then the person is asked to go ahead and discuss further what he has done. So, competency based interviews will focus on questions that will directly test your competency on the subject. Emphasis on past behavior as predicator of success. They would also check your track record, and if you can show I did a project and this is what I have done, that can also be scrutinized. In such occasions, all candidates are asked the same questions and rated. So, as I said, one problem can be given to all candidates and it can be assessed as how much time each candidate took to sort out the problem and then to give a solution, and how feasible is that solution. The rating can be given accordingly. Same question, different answers, timing can be checked, and the efficiency, speed in which you are able to answer, that can also be checked. Other questions related to this could be for instance related to teamwork. They can also ask you about a team project that you worked on, and then they can ask questions like what problems arose, how did you deal with them. So, as I said, you cannot say that there were no problems and then everything was absolutely fine. There must have been problems and then you just say how you solve the problems. So, that is very important. And in terms of communication skills, they are not just looking for your vocabulary, fluency, your felicity of expressions, but then how did you apply those kind of knowledge that you have developed in terms of communication skills practically. This means you should be able to describe a situation where you used your communication skills to persuade somebody to do something, influence somebody to do something in your favor. It can be in the form of conflict resolution skills, it can be in the form of just making somebody buy your idea and making them feel quite happy about the fact that they have sided you in terms of getting that idea. Now, in that case your persuasive skills are checked. So, they want to see an illustrative example. So, be ready with something that you have done. Interpersonal skills, again related to communication skills, they just want to know what kind of people do you find it difficult to work with, and then how do you handle those situations. Again, you cannot say that I can work with anybody. So, although ideally it is appreciable, but they would still like to know you may have some problem with somebody. So, something like I do not like hypocrites. So, people who pretend that they are something then actually they are not. It is very difficult for me to deal with those guys. Actually, that is telling something about you. Probably you are honest, you are straightforward. So, it is very difficult for you to deal with those guys. But then they would like to know, given a job situation, given a teamwork, given a kind of project, is it going to hamper your communication with them? If you could prove that no, not that way, I may not like working with that people, but I am always willing to cooperate. Then if there is a situation where you find that somebody has a personality that is harming the whole group interest, how did you deal with that situation? They are interested in knowing that also. Then they want to see whether you are self-directed. So, whether you have the initiative on your own or you self-motivated. So, they could ask you a question like, give an example of a situation when you had to go beyond the call of duty to get something done. Now, what does this mean? So, something was told to you on Friday night, let us say, and by Friday 5 o'clock the office is closed. Saturday, Sunday is holiday, and then that is not actually your job, but the person who is supposed to do is absent, is gone somewhere out of station. He did not even ask you to take care of that, but somehow it came to you and then it had to be sorted out by Sunday morning. So, you just went to the office, you took the key, so you took lot of risk, you opened something, you called somebody, you installed something, you sorted out the problem by Sunday morning, and then Sunday evening it started working. Monday when everybody came, many didn't know what happened, but except the higher officials who came to know, and then they appreciated that you took that initiative, even when somebody who was responsible was not there on the spot, but you came out of your way. Are you this kind of guy who will do things out of your way even when it is not expected, even when you know that you are not going to be paid any extra money for taking another shift, or taking your time away from the family and spending that whole day in the company, knowing all these things fully? Are you willing to do that? So, that is something that they want to know. And overall problem solving ability, tell us about an error you made and what you learned from it. So, most of us, like as they say in computer programming, most of the programmers learn during debugging, when they identify the mistakes and then when they try to sort it out, and then they learn more. Just like that, in life also we learn more once we commit mistakes and we realize that we have committed those mistakes, and then there was some problem when we committed it, and then we try to overcome those problems, then we learn, we improve, we progress. They just want to know whether you have that ability, problem solving, learning from mistakes. If it is there, you just give an example. And then another interesting and funny thing about interview is that always, apart from questions, generally expect the unexpected. Now, when I am saying all these things about interview, do not form the impression that if you are thorough with this, this is the only thing that will see through in the interview, and then that your mind is typically built up in such a manner that if this kind of situation happens in the interview, you will do very well. But having given you this much information, I would also like you to know, you should always train your mind to expect the unexpected. When I am saying almost we are going to discuss about hundreds of questions, okay, and I am sure at least 10, 15, 20, in some cases 30, 40 questions may be asked in different manner in the interview. You are almost 60% sure of the basic questions, fine, but there could be questions which are not covered here, and then there could be some very funny questions which catch you unawares. You never knew that such a question could be put to you. So, expect the unexpected. Suddenly some question catches you, and then you are caught unaware, and then you get nervous, although you are cool, confident till that time. So, look for those questions and be prepared also. Now, funny questions are asked for what reasons? They are asked to identify one's ability to think under pressure. Now, if a person is very well trained to answer questions under normal circumstances, the panel members would like to put the person under pressure by catching him unawares and putting some embarrassing questions, funny questions. They also want to see how, when a tight corner is created, the person is able to use his presence of mind and how quickly he is able to use it. Combined with that, if the person is really having a terrific personality, he will add a good sense of humor. Is it there? More than that, it also indicates one's ability to react spontaneously to the situation and think creatively over the situation. These are the things they will check just by putting one question, sometimes embarrassing, funny, ridiculous, but nevertheless can check all these things at one point, one question only. Now, on the one hand, it helps one test all these things, but on the other hand, it also helps to weed out candidates who do not possess creativity. Those candidates who do not have these qualities can be removed very easily. Those who do not have creativity or lack of lateral or out of box thinking, they can be just removed easily because they will not be able to answer such questions. Now, what kind of questions are they? What could be those funny questions that can catch you unaware? Now look at this, there could be question like this, if you were an animal, which animal would you choose to be and why? Now any animal you can say, provided you are able to highlight one good quality in you which is found in that animal. Now they want you to say this spontaneously, quickly, and then something that you like easily, and then they want to see how you are able to connect why you like that one. Suppose you say even dog, so you should be able to highlight the faithfulness that it has for its owner, which will be appreciable in this organizational situation. Okay, you will be loyal to the company, that is an interesting thing. So think of an animal and a quality that will actually be intrinsically related to you with the animal, that will also be interest to the company. When they say tree, for instance, they can even say, imagine that you are a tree, and then which tree would you imagine and why? So again, some fruit tree you can easily justify, even a fruitless tree, but you can still justify because it is giving shadow. So you can always link your helping tendency, you can always link your tendency to give others without any expectation with the kind of tree that you are going to choose. Bird again. Okay. So what kind of bird? Even you can say something like crow, but will you be able to justify that? So there are some good things in a crow, like even the things we throw as waste, so it is consuming. So you can highlight that even things which people throw as waste, I always find a mechanism to use it, reuse it. I have a program to recycle waste. In that sense, I like crow very much, and so on. So when they ask you bird, tree, animal, they can even ask some funny questions like, if you have to select a building and imagine that you are that building, so which building or which architecture, which monument that you like? So if you say Empire State Building, why? So you can say the tall structure, okay, or if you say Taj Mahal, you are bringing another kind of image between Empire State Building and Taj Mahal. So you should be able to justify. When it is Taj Mahal, there is certainly certain other emotional aspects which are involved. Is that relevant for the company? And you should be able to show how relevant it is. Probably you can say that even a thing that generally people neglect, I will do it in a very magnificent way, and whenever I look at it, I remember of magnificence. Fine. So you are able to link it. So again, if questions like, if you are to die tomorrow, what would you do today? So things like, I will say I love somebody so close, I will send an SMS, is quite normal. But there are people like, if they were to die tomorrow, they remember that simple thing like they have to go and switch off their PC. Simple thing like they have forgotten to sign that check. Okay. Very simple thing, but then it tells lot about their conscience and then inner nature. So what you do now just before your death will also determine what kind of person you are when you are living. So that also they want to know. Other interesting things, especially in case of management situations, questions like, sell this pen to me. So you have to highlight some values, quality, standard, or you have to create a situation where the person is able to buy this. I remember a student who was selected with high ranking, and then he was just asked to sell the pen, and then there was just one pen before him, and then he took it, and then he first instead of selling the pen, he just said that, okay, before I sell the pen, I just want to know certain things about the organization. So they said, okay, what kind of things? I just want to know how many posts are there, how many you have interviewed, and then even if I sell the pen, I want to know whether I have a chance. And he kept on asking them lot of factual things, and then he just finally persuaded them to say that they should just put that fact on a paper and then give it to him. And then they were so absorbed in his argument, and then he said that, okay, why don't you just write that on the paper which is here. And then the person was just about to write, and then he was looking at his pocket, there was no pen, and then he just showed, would you like to buy this pen? So he purchased the pen without even highlighting the qualities about the pen. He just created the need, his presence of mind, that there was no pen in the pocket of the person, so that he saw that, and then he developed a need that he should write something on the paper. He persuaded him to do that, and then finally he sold the pen. And as I said, needless to say that he was selected with high ranking and very good salary at the start itself. Now, it looks like selling a pen or pencil is nothing, but how your creativity is used, your presence of mind, and how good you are in communication skills. And it's a funny situation. Will you be able to use your sense of humor? And then it could be pen, or it could be erasure, it could be coconuts, it could be mangoes, it could be anything, just selling. And sometimes it could be like this: how would you convince an Eskimo to buy a refrigerator? So Eskimo, being in a cool place, he need not get a refrigerator. But some of the probable answers, some of the answers in which students have convinced the panel members happen to be like this. So when the Eskimo is living there, even there are certain things which he wants to keep at a moderate temperature, which he doesn't want to go below 0 degree, which is likely to happen if he is keeping it just out. But in a fridge, you can moderate the temperature, you can set it at 15 degrees C, 12 degrees C, so you can adjust it and you can control it that it does not go below 0 degree centigrade. So this seemed to be probable, and then they have also selected candidates who came out with this, or candidates without technical, scientific, logical thinking, just using their persuasive powers, saying that you buy this refrigerator, I am going to give you something else, okay, using all kind of tactics. They are also rewarded amply. But overall, I just want you to know that you should be ready to answer these funny questions, ridiculous ones apparently, but not so deeply, because they are testing certain interesting aspects of your personality, your presence of mind, your creativity, your spontaneity, and so on. Now, when we look at the questions, the list goes on and on. There are questions and questions and questions, and then one can go on discussing about them and giving probable answers. Beneath these dozens and dozens of possible questions like those, there are really only 5 basic questions that underlie all the rest. And if you think of these 5 questions, again it can be asked in different forms, you will be able to understand its ramifications. Now, the person who has the power to hire you wants to know basically, why are you here? Why are you here? So, you should be able to ascertain what reason you have applied for the job, what are your career goals, etc. What can you do for us? And then what kind of person are you, your personality traits? What is your unique selling point? What distinguishes you from 100 other people who have the same skills as you have? And can I afford you? Now, if you have all these things, talent, potential, knowledge, information, everything, can I really afford you? Will you be able to join my company with the kind of salary that I am giving you? So, these are the questions that the employer has in his mind. Now, from a different perspective, you have to be asking yourself the same 5 questions, though in a slightly different form. How would you be asking the same questions? Question 1, you must be asking, what does this job involve? Okay, and what can I do for this company once I know what this job involves? Do my skills truly match this job? Do I have the ample talent, skill required in this job? Followed by this, are these the kind of people I would like to work with or not? If they give a chance, would I like to work with these people or would I leave this organization? This is something that you must be asking. And then your unique selling point. If we like each other and both want to work together, can I persuade them that there is something unique about me that makes me different from 19 other people who can do the same tasks? How am I different? And can I persuade them to hire me at the salary I need or want? On the one hand, they also want to know whether you would join them with the salary they give. From the other perspective, you want to know whether they would give the salary that you desire. So, from both sides, similar concerns but different questions. So, once you have that clear in your mind, you will be able to understand the bottom line. The question at the bottom line is this: why should I hire you? So, you should be able to tell, you should hire me because of my qualification, you should hire me because of my experience, you should hire me because of my communication skills, you should hire me because of my conflict resolution skills, you should hire me because I have good presence of mind, you should hire me because I work overtime, I do not look at my watch, you should hire me because I am loyal, you should hire me because I am different than the rest of the people whom you want to hire, who all have these qualities, but I am different and I can prove it because of my track record that I have. Look at the project that I have and give ample examples. So, answer the questions, why should I hire you, through different perspective, different angles, and trying to answer those other questions also. Now, overall, if you look at your employer, understand this aspect: your employer is not a fool. Why I am saying this? When you are called for an interview, his organization spends vast sum of money in selection process. Huge amount is spent. The panel members are given flight fare, they are kept in posh hotels, they are given good food, and then they are sometimes taken for sightseeing. So, sometimes they stay through 3-4 days, lot of expenses are spent on them. Then advertising itself for the post, sometimes 50,000, 60,000, if it is repeated, sometimes lakhs of rupees. Sometimes a company spends even a crore, okay, one huge recruitment, they spend that much. Now, is the organizer or the manager or the CEO or the owner of that company, the employer, is a fool to spend so much money and then at the end of it not select the candidate? Is he a fool? Now, apparently not, because once he is spending that much money, he would like to reap huge returns. 1 crore in this interview, but then by the end of that year, having employed these people, he should be able to get at least 10 crore as profit. Then he does not mind this 1 crore. What is the main concern then? The main concern is to select the right person for the right job. Selecting the right person for the right job, no matter what amount of money is spent, ultimately the discrete choice is between liability and asset. What is liability? Somebody who is liable all the time is a problem creator, all the time is weak minded, all the time is negative thinker, all the time keeps complaining, all the time it's late, is not able to perform tasks within time, very inefficient, and then the company, he becomes a kind of pain in the neck. The company keeps him because the company after all selected him by some kind of mistake, and they cannot throw it because of the image of company, because of certain labor rules, laws, etc. They cannot throw the person just like that because he is a permanent person and so on. So, he has become a liability now. Till the retirement, the company has to take care. But asset, they just want to take those people who are actually assets to the organization. An asset, as I said, you spend 1 crore on this person, in the first year only this person is going to get 10 crore for the company. So, what is the big thing about spending that 1 crore of rupees? So, get 10 people like this, 20 people who are assets, so you will earn in billions, the company will grow. Along with the company, these people will also grow. They will also become much more valuable as the time grows. It's difficult for the company to retain them because they are strong assets unless and until they create some kind of bond, some kind of loyalty by giving them some shares, by making them part of the company, making them feel that the company is quite appreciating their loyalty and all that. So, when the employer is actually spending so much money, the employer is much more interested in selecting somebody who is an asset and rejecting, or as far as possible to filter, who are likely to be liable candidates. So, the choice is between liability and asset. So, in that context, once you prepare all the questions, once you understand this, try to prepare questions of your own. Try to prepare some of your questions, because the employers are as much interested in your answers as well as your questions. So, they would assess you not just by your answers, but the kind of questions, the smart intelligent questions that you would ask at the end or in between the interview process itself. So, they are equally concerned about what questions you have in your mind. Then, when you ask intelligent questions about the position, about the organization, it will also be appreciated, because they know that you are just already preparing yourself to get into the organization and you are ready. Okay, they do not even have to give you some training, they have to give you some tips only. More than that, when they ask you towards the end or in the middle, so these are the questions that we wanted to ask you, and now if you have some questions, you may ask us. So, when they are throwing it open to you and they are telling you to ask some questions, that is the time you should definitely ask, and you should be prepared for those questions, because that is your opportunity to separate yourself from the other interviewers. Okay. Now, you can show that you are distinct. What kind of smart questions that you can ask? Questions like, if you hired me, what would be my first assignment? Where will this company be in the next 5 to 10 years? So, you are also checking whether they have a vision, they have a goal, they have a plan. Assuming I do a good job for the company, where can I go from here? It means what kind of promotion, what kind of perks can I expect if I do a terrific job? What do you enjoy the most about this company? You can ask this personally, sometimes in a group situation where only these employers are interviewing you. You can ask them, what is it that you like? So, and what is it that you want me to like in this company? Would you please tell me about the people I will be working with? So, I am from this branch, what kind of people are there in the whole team? I would like to know. Why is this opportunity available? If this opportunity is available because somebody ran away for some reason, or the manager is always short tempered and then there is nobody who stays there for a long time. So, I would like to know what is the reason, why is this available? Other than yourself, who else is involved with the hiring process? So, sometimes it may be like that these people are one nodal points, and then there are other people higher up than them who would also interview you. So, it is better to know those people, and is it possible for me to meet with them today? Where does this position fit within the overall organization? And then, is the leadership in your organization bottom up or top down? So, when it is bottom up, so they get the feedback from the employees at the lower level and take it to the higher level. When it is top down, you always take the instruction from the top and then it is disseminated to the next level and then it reaches. Maybe they do not take it from the lower level. So, it is, I mean, both organizations will have its merits and demerits, but it is worth knowing what kind of organization is that. So, I will just continue with more questions and then slowly I will take you to the interview room and how you should be prepared to get into the interview room, what kind of frame of mind. In the next 2 or 3 slides, I will be talking about that. Before I actually take you to the interview room, So, you should also keep in mind the kind of rating they give you depending on your performance. What is the interview rating scale generally that's applied in interviews? So, in a rating, let us say that is 5 point, they will give 0 for no response and 5 for excellence. Okay, it will be excellent. What could be the selection criteria despite these points that they are giving? You will be assessed in terms of intelligence, which is related to your academic performance as well as the way you are answering the questions, responsibility, your ability to take this responsibility, your sense of responsibility seen in the work roles you have taken, external activities you have performed, appearance and poise, these are all related to first impressions, which we are going to look into in quite detail in the coming slides. Appearance and poise related to body language also. Interpersonal relations, your interest, your role in the team. Integrity, how have you performed your role? Is there any inconsistency? So that they want to see. Self confidence, are you relaxed, performing in a responsible manner? Communication skills, are you articulate, coherent? Is your grammar not that bad? Are you able to communicate? Is it good? And then responsive nature based on your listening skills, interest, external interest, involvement, leadership potential. Have you been elected to some office? Have you taken some initiative in certain things? And then interviewing skills itself, how logical thinking is there, how are you able to assert your priorities and all that. Overall, these are the qualities they are checking for. Now, I just said in the previous one that you should be worried about the first impression, making a good first impression, because first impressions count often for far more than is logical. Now, I will be talking more on this soon, because the first 5 minutes and the first few seconds, many non-verbalists believe that are the ones which determine your fate. So, why should we be so concerned about that? Because the result of the interview will depend largely on the impression you make during the first 5 minutes, and your subject, your marks and your experience got you to the interview, but it is the soft skills that will take you to the next level. The body language, your para-linguistic cues, even without looking up, literally looking at you, just let us say the panel member is just focusing on the papers on the table, but he hears the way you are knocking at the door. They also listen whether you are saying excuse me sir or may I come in. They are also looking for polite markers. They also check whether you are asking for permission before sitting. They also check what kind of dress you are wearing, and then are you coming confidently, what kind of steps that you take. All the things are noted, the dress and then the handshake, or in an Indian context just saying namaste, how do you say, all these things are just noted, and it is this that's determining that first 5 minutes and the final result also most of the times. So, you should keep in mind certain things which are related to body language as well as creating that first impression. So, first keep in mind punctuality, and then second keep in mind dress, and thirdly handshake, and followed by this the overall body language, and then let us look at punctuality as the first one. What do I mean by punctuality? Just be there before time. If you have to travel from one place to another, I would even suggest be there one day before. If the interview is today at 11 o'clock, do not take the risk of reaching the place at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, because expect the unexpected. That day your train may be cancelled, the flight may not take off because of fog or heavy rain, or there is delay, flight itself is cancelled, or you reach the place but then you are not able to identify the place. So, the auto rickshaw driver mistook you to a different place and so on. So, do not give chance or do not take the risk of being there at the last moment or going late for the interview. So, if you have to travel, be there a day before, at least reach there in the evening and then relax, take some rest, good food, good sleep, and then get up normally in the morning, and then ensure on the previous day itself how would you go to the venue. It would be nice if you could stay just somewhere near to the venue where you can even just go by walk in 10 to 15 minutes, although it is better you take some kind of conveyance to reach that place. But in worst case, let us say there is a strike and then all auto rickshaw drivers and taxi, so they are on strike, so there is nothing. So, could you go by walk? So, if you can assess those things on the previous day itself, it leaves you that last minute stress and unnecessary tension, which will again mar your performance. So, take note of that, be there before time. If you are the local person and if you know the venue, so if it is even at 11 o'clock, be there at 9:30, because there is a reporting time. Take note of the reporting time. You report there with all your certificates. When you are going there, remember to take all the certificates. They want to first check the certificates, and then they also, in some cases, they also give a chance like first come first served. They do not decide an order. In certain cases, the order is decided depending on various categories. But if you are on that category of first come first served, and if you happen to be the first person, the panel member will very much appreciate your sense of time and respecting others' time. And there is also another advantage if you are called for the first time, because they are in a mood to give you more time. They are much more receptive. They are not tired. They are not thinking that you should go as quick as possible so that they can go and catch their flight or train. So, no preoccupation is there in their mind. No kind of prejudice is there, because already they like the candidate so much. They think that no other candidate can perform much better than this, and already they had finalized. But when you are the first one, you have another added advantage of setting the first as well as the last impression as the best candidate. So, utilize that time by being punctual, be there before time, and do whatever it takes to reach there, to arrive half an hour at least, sometimes 1 hour depending on the case. What is the other thing that I am worried about, that I am cautioning you about, is that late arrival. Late arrival for the job interview will almost cancel your chance of getting through in the interview at all, because it is never appreciated. The panel members never like somebody who is coming late. Whatever reason you give, you may give that there was strike, the bus broke down, and then there was an accident, or you helped somebody who got in the accident, anything that you may tell. But then generally late arrival is not excused at all. Very rare organizations these days consider, thinking that you are from a long distance, far away place, they give contingency to this. But why should you take that risk? So, be there before time, and then before you arrive that venue, or before you just enter there, during that time, the transition time, if possible, just stop by the restroom and make sure that your hair is combed. So, do not give them the impression that you are just in the climax sequence of a Bond movie, and then just all your hair, everything is unkempt, and then shirt is not in good condition, buttons are not kept properly. So, just check your hair is combed, makeup is fresh, or at least you do not have to apply any makeup, just wash your face, then wipe it. So, it gives a fresh look. So, ensure that your face is looking fresh. If it is so much of oil, so see whether you can get some soap and then wash it. So, just give that fresh look, that do not give them the look that just you came running away from the railway station, or airport and then you are just dashing into that interview hall. Don't give that impression. And when you arrive, when you look at some people, smile and say good morning, good afternoon, hello, how are you, so are you there for the interview, so it's nice to see you here, and so on. Are you from this institute? I am from this institute, and so on. So anyone whom you meet, you be the first one to greet and you be the first one to smile. Now the general psychology is that when you stare at them, the other person will also feel somewhat insecure and the other person will also return the stare. But if you happen to smile, the other person will also respond by a smile, and the other person will find you as a friend and an accessible person also. So that's important because you create a rapport here. It will also reduce your stress. You also make others reduce their stress, and you create a kind of positive environment even before getting into the interview panel. And then when you arrive, think about certain other things also, like if you are asked to wait, take a seat and look at a magazine if available. But I would suggest that even without the magazine, if you have some points, if it is an interview that is going to be based on checking your technical knowledge, I would suggest that you have a small notebook, or nowadays you have a kind of reader, e-book reader or something, where you have all the important points noted, and then you can see that at a glance. You can just quickly revise if it is possible. Now if you are so confident and thorough that you need not revise it at all, okay, leave it. Then you look at a magazine if available. But generally they say that reading a newspaper do not give a good impression. Maybe 2-3 reasons. One, when you keep the newspaper, you are just completely blocking the eye contact. The other person is not able to look at you. 2, you are the person, you are attending the interview at 11 o'clock, but you should have read the newspaper by 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you should know what's happening there. Okay. So many things can be said about newspaper, superfluousness as compared to reading a magazine, but most of all, you are cutting off, you are burying yourself, and then you are avoiding that eye contact with the neighbors and the other interviewers. So keep that in mind. If offered something to eat or drink, it's better to decline politely. Unless you have plenty of time, they say very sure that you have it only in the afternoon and there is no harm in drinking it now, so you can do that. But things like you took a cup of tea and then you sort of spilt it over your shirt, and the shirt is a new one, or it's the one that you are quite comfortable with and you have nothing to change it, there is no time to run to the shop and buy a new one, so you will attend with that kind of tea stain on your shirt. Is it worth doing it? So think of those things carefully, and generally better to avoid any kind of offer, and it's better to politely decline. And then don't stare at the people who are just sitting. Try to introduce yourself and then smile. Okay, they are also interviewees along with you, so create that warm environment. Don't wait idly. You can introduce without waiting for others to do that. This would give you a chance to size up your competitors. Later, you can use their feedback. Now, instead of thinking that, okay, let the other person speak, you initiating and you going and talking to the other person is going to help you in another way, because in case the other person is the one who is attending interview before you, sometimes most of the candidates would come back and give you the feedback. How many people were there? What kind of questions were asked? Maybe they may even consult some very important questions, how they felt about it, that's fine. But you get an overall idea about what's happening inside, and that again reduces your nervousness, builds up your confidence. More than that, it also helps you to size up. When the person says, oh, that kind of silly question, I don't know how to answer, but you have a very good answer to that question. And probably the same question is asked, already you are ready with the answer. So talking to them is helpful to you as well as to the other person. you are making the other person feel comfortable. The other person can also come and help you with their feedback about the interview, which is giving you very important cues, so that you can perform better even than the other candidate. And then all the time just be aware of your body language. Don't think that even when you are sitting outside the interview panel you can do anything. So putting your legs cross-legged and then aggressively facing the other people sitting there, or avoiding eye contact, or giving any kind of negative distractive posture. Now avoid all these things, because there may be a person who may be sitting there silently, who may be a psychologist who is observing your behavior in a non-official situation, or even if there is no psychologist present just next to you. Nowadays technology has become so sophisticated, there could be a hidden camera recording all your movement, and it can be rechecked before sending you the interview call letter. So your behavior here also is important. So behave in a proper manner, especially with regard to body language. And once you are sure of this, think of certain keys to success. What are the keys to success? Understand that interview success is basically based on 3 factors. In fact, they are the 3 basic factors. One is believability. Now, believability in your side as well as believability from their side, followed by likability and trust. Now, believability is you believe that you are going to get through on the one hand, but on the other hand, can you create believability? So everybody will say that how are you going to do this in 5 years? They will say, I will work very hard, I am very determined, and then I will do this, I will do that, and people just listen to that as a story. There is no response. Creating believability, conviction, strong opinion. So that through your communication skills and through your illustrative examples, showing examples from your proven track record, so that will create that believability. Now apart from believability, another important aspect of this is likability. There is something in you that the people should like you. Maybe a very positive smile, maybe the way you have dressed up, maybe the way you are just making some jokes in a very crucial pressure point kind of situation. You are just able to relax for a minute and show the other lighter side to your personality. So that is also seen. But overall, maybe you just left with a very warm feeling when you left the hall, although you argued, quarreled, debated, but overall you generated enthusiasm and warmth. There is something there. When you are leaving, you are creating that likability. If you create it, you are sure to be selected. And then trust. They believe in you, they like you, but it looks like they cannot trust you. It looks like that you are job hopping, and they spend so much time in this interview and they select you, and they have not kept anybody on waiting list. You join there, and in a month that you have left that place. Or it looks like they cannot trust you with that important position, because you are just a kind of person who will blurt out things. You cannot keep secrets. So you say that you are an open book, but then you don't know how to use diplomacy in situation where it is demanding. They cannot trust you in terms of tact and diplomacy. They cannot trust you in terms of keeping you stick to the job. So overall, see how you can create these 3 basic ingredients to success. Making yourself believable, whatever you say, and then once they believe, they should like you, and apart from believing and liking you, they should also trust you. So think on these 3 aspects of success in interviews. Think over these points and ask yourself, ask your friends whether they believe you, whether they like you, and whether they trust you. Ask your teachers, ask your parents, where do you lack and what should you do to improve on these aspects, and keep asking these questions and try to answer the questions. And then while answering, while introspecting, while reflecting, you will sort of implicitly imbibe certain qualities which will slowly if not you don't have these qualities now, gradually make you develop these qualities and get ready for the interview and then be successful in the interview. I will be discussing more on this ingredients which are required for success in interview in the coming lecture. Till then I will say bye and thank you. As I keep telling, keep thinking over these issues, questions. This will help you to be receptive to the next lecture that I will be talking, and if you are prepared with this, I will take you to the next level. Slowly you could understand that we are getting into the interview hall itself, and there you need to be doing so many things. I will talk about that in the next lecture. Thank you so much.